people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Mark Taffet, who handles the career of Clarissa Shields, two-time undisputed three-division champion Clarissa Shields, he stated, watch DAZN Boxing this weekend for some big news on Clarissa Shields' next fight. It appears that Clarissa may have entered into some kind of a partnership with DAZN who can better cater to her desire to fight in the United States, fight in her own turf.
In America.
We remember what the hang-up for a Marshall rematch was. Clarissa was insistent that if she's going to run it back with Savannah, it's going to be in America. It looks like she was open to fighting Natasha Jonas in the UK, but not Savannah, not for a second time.
Make of that what you will.
When it comes to Natasha and what happened there, Clarissa very recently sat down and spoke to Akin Barak on the DAZN Boxing show. I happened to catch that interview. In so many words, what Clarissa said was that Natasha Jonas, the kind of money that she was looking for that fight was retirement money.
Isn't that what I've been telling you?
And you have to put your thinking caps on for this one. The financier of such a fight would have been Boxer. It would have been Ben Shalom. Thus, the onus to satisfy Natasha's financial demands for that particular fight, it would have been on Ben. It would have been on Boxer.
So if the fight didn't happen, it's on them.
Young Clarissa Shields appears to have moved on, and it looks a lot like her next fight is going to be on the DAZN platform, which I reiterate is more capable of housing Clarissa's fights, at least here in America, than Boxer, than Sky, a UK-based broadcaster.
We're all right to do the Marshall fight in the UK, but beyond that, what can they do for Clarissa?
There are one or two fights still out there, one or two fights that I can think of that would be adequate and suitable fights for Clarissa Shields moving forward. One among them is a long-awaited, long-anticipated Raquel Miller fight.
Raquel Miller, an unbeaten fighter.
Word around the campfire seems to be that the DAZN's own Joe Markowski has been talking about working with different promoters. A Detroit show with Shields, FCD, and some of Salita's prospects would be tasty.
Detroit, Michigan.
It's where Alicia Baumgartner, the super featherweight division's undisputed champion, that's where she resides. Clarissa Shields and Alicia Baumgartner on the same show, on the same card. I like the idea of that.
But that's just me bouncing ideas around. Who knows what they have in mind?
Clarissa Shields has, for the most part, already fought most of the who's who fighters anywhere in between 168 and 154 pounds. There aren't that many fighters left that she hasn't fought already, but one that she hasn't fought is her old buddy, Raquel Miller, her longtime domestic rival. Still is an unbeaten fighter who has seen action in the last 12 months.
That's right.
Be an ideal fight for Clarissa Shields, even more ideal for Raquel Miller, who's 10 years older than Clarissa Shields. Clarissa's 28, whereas Raquel's 38.
She takes good care of herself, but the clock is ticking.
If she is to face Clarissa Shields in the pro ranks, it really is now or never.
It is.
So maybe what they're going to announce on the undercard of Bam Rodriguez's next fight is Shields versus Miller. Maybe Shields versus Green. Jadeja Green.
MVP's most recent signee.
Most Valuable Promotions, who helms the career of Amandia Serrano, one of my personal favorites.
The best dressed featherweight in the world.
She's something special, and it just so happens that Most Valuable Promotions, they very recently signed Jadeja Green, who has in effect become the mandatory challenger to Franchon Cruz up there at super middleweight by way of the WBC. I don't know, maybe they finagled something, pulled some strings to where she can fight Clarissa Shields instead?
Maybe.
As stated, Clarissa Shields has already beaten most of the who's who fighters anywhere in between 154 and 168 pounds. There aren't that many fighters left that she hasn't already fought. Jadeja?
Well, she hasn't fought Jadeja.
Once again, that's just me bouncing ideas around. That's just a suggestion. We don't know for sure who Clarissa Shields is going to be fighting in her next fight, but for all intents and purposes, it does look like DAZN.
They're gonna show it.
And perhaps Matchroom is going to promote it. Perhaps they're going to be involved to some extent. I mean, why else would they announce her next fight on a DAZN show.
More specifically, a matchroom show.
There's got to be a reason for that. I look forward to finding out who it is Clarissa's going to be fighting. Moreover, if Clarissa's not fighting Natasha, who's Natasha Jonas going to be fighting?
Because they're not facing Clarissa. I just saw an interview with Joe Gallagher where he's adamant they're not going to face Terry Harper either.
More questions that need answers, and hopefully we'll get some of them this weekend.
Stay tuned.
Men's flyweight news. Ahead of his fight this weekend, Eddie Hearn says we've got a ready-made unification match with Sonny Edwards for Bam if he wins.
Seemed to have been trouble in paradise earlier this week when Sonny Edwards indicated that Bam may be going in a different direction. Eddie Hearn is providing reassurances that the fight between them will happen.
The unification match. The whole reason that Jesse gave up the belt at 115 pounds was to win all the belts at 112. Hearn told BoxingScene.com, we've got a ready-made unification with Sonny Edwards for Bam if he wins this weekend. That's why we signed him. He's a brilliant fighter. He could possibly run through the entire division, to be quite honest. But Bam is an exceptional talent as well.
They both are.
It's a terrific matchup to do over here. That's the type of fight we could bring to a bigger venue. Edwards does not presently have a fight scheduled, but is already committed to challenging Rodriguez, whom nearly everyone expects to win this weekend. Best of luck Saturday. I will be rooting for you, Edwards tweeted in a social media exchange with Robert Gersha,
Who trains Bam Rodriguez?
the men's flyweight division may finally get the consolidation it's sorely needed for many years now, as it has been a division that has remained divided for a long time.
Matchroom can change that.
The plans for Rodriguez to drop down to flyweight from junior bantamweight was spoken into existence immediately after his previous hometown headliner last June.
Bam fought 3 times last year, and it was a very productive year for him. The last time he saw action was in September.
Matchroom has really cornered the market on men's flyweight action in the men's flyweight division. Mexico City's Julio Cesar Martinez, co-promoted by Matchroom and Canelo Promotions, is coming off of a 12-round decision victory over Spain's Samuel Cardona last December 3rd in Glendale, Arizona. His next fight will come in an oft-rescheduled title consolidation bout with interim title holder McWilliams Arroyo on the undercard of training and promotional stablemate Saul Canelo Alvarez May 6th in Jalisco, Mexico.
They've got plans for him too.
If he wins after that, I want him to fight Dalakian, insisted Hearn. Maybe later this summer or early fall, sometime around or shortly after the Bam Rodriguez versus Sonny Edwards unification. Then I want him to fight Dalakian. From there, the winners fight the winners to become undisputed. It's not rocket science.
Nor should it be.
They're all right there to be made. The beauty is they are all brilliant fights.
But Bam's got to win this weekend.
That's the first order of business. Rodriguez, of course, needs to turn away the challenge of visiting Gonzalez, who sports a professional record of 15 wins with 1 loss and 6 knockouts, to claim the vacant WBO flyweight title.
Jinto Nakatani's old belt.
Jinto Nakatani, who has since vacated that title and moved up to super flyweight, is going to fight one of the Maloney brothers for the vacant WBO title at superfly.
While Bam is fighting for his old belt at Fly this weekend.
That's the skinny. The odds are heavily in his favor, as the unbeaten 23-year-old is listed by Bet365 Sportsbook as a massive betting favorite to prevail.
Him and Sonny have got the best feet in this division, the best maneuvering capability in this weight class.
But I will say that Bam is a more heavy-handed puncher than Sonny Edwards. Punch for punch, blow for blow, Bam's got heavier hands. That's how he stopped Sorung Visai, who had not been stopped in some years and many fights.
But Bam stopped him. Could he stop Sonny?
Sonny's a pure boxer, a capable one, and he's fought at least 1 or 2 heavy-handed punchers before. Maruthi Mithalane.
Sonny was actually the underdog in that fight.
Former champion Felix Alvarado, guy who's been around the block, racked up a lot of knockouts. Sonny outclassed him, outmaneuvered.
As stated, Sonny Edwards is a quite capable, pure boxer.
So even if you've got power, he's going to make it difficult for you to deliver those power shots.
The key to beating a pure boxer is keeping the pressure on, throwing punches and bunches and keeping the pressure on.
So much so that even if that pure boxer can handle the situation in the early goings of a match, down the stretch, they'll start to fade. That's the basic idea.
Eddie wants this to be Sonny Edwards' first fight under the Matchroom banner and Bam's next fight if he wins this weekend.
I won't lie to you that I would have liked to have seen Sonny Edwards settle his affairs with Julio Cesar Martinez, the flyweight division's WBC champion, champion based on the history that he has with Sonny and his brother Charlie.
That would have been nice.
But if they're going to make Bam versus Sonny next, after this weekend, I'm not complaining.
Yeah, Julio Cesar Martinez. He's a pressure fighter, but he's a rather crude pressure fighter.
He is.
More limited guy.
He is.
Based on what I saw in the Alvarado fight, I actually think Sonny Edwards could outmaneuver Julio. He could outpoint him.
That even though Julio Cesar Martinez has the right base style for the job, he's still missing some key ingredients. He's a pressure fighter, he is, but he's a rather crude pressure fighter.
I'd like Sonny's chances in that one. A Bam Rodriguez fight, I think, would be a stiffer test for Sonny Edwards.
Question in a Bam Rodriguez fight is, can Bam Rodriguez make the necessary adjustment to land his power shots on Sonny Edwards? Because he's not going to make that easy to do.
Edwards versus Rodriguez is a more high-level fight, I'd say, than Edwards versus Martinez.
So we have that to look forward to. And let's hope that there's no trouble in paradise, because there was some mention of Bam potentially moving back up to super flyweight.
That was earlier this week.
We've talked about that. There are some big names up there at super flyweight. There are, but these are aging fighters, aging champions. I'd like to see these young guys fight each other while they're in their prime. The best versus the best while they're at their best.
That's what I want to see.
Finally, in men's heavyweight news, the continued fallout of Anthony Joshua's performance. Farrell Crotch said, Joshua has lost all his aggression and killer instincts. He was very hesitant.
We've been hearing these kind of cookie-cutter comments all week.
There are always these extremes associated with an Anthony Joshua fight. Farrell Crotch said, in the ring, at world title level, he's been there, done the business, and now, I don't know what motivates him. What we talked about it. He wants the money. I don't understand why he's fighting. I just don't. It's a dangerous sport. Money can't be the motivation when you've earned over 100 million pounds. I've not seen anything in that performance that he wants to be a world champion again, Frotch told BBC Radio 5 Live.
I remember people were calling for his retirement soon after the Andy Ruiz fight, what was his first professional loss.
And let's not beat around the bush. Andy cleaned his clock.
Yeah.
Andy kicked his ass, not dissimilar to how Corey Saunders kicked Vladimir Klitschko's ass.
Knocked him around, knocked him down a couple of times, but one would think with the rich history that boxing has, the boxers themselves would be able to draw those parallels.
Instead, all we get are the same knee-jerk reactions. Joshua was doing a lot of holding and never appeared willing to engage in a shootout with the smaller Franklin, which Frotch believes is a further sign of Joshua's decline from being an aggressive knockout artist. Many observers believe Joshua's aggressive nature was broken when he was stopped by Andy Ruiz in a shocking upset loss in 2019. Joshua has lost all his aggression and killer instincts. The ability is still there. The boxing is still there. He looks the part, but every time Franklin shaped up like he was going to hit him, he hesitated. I've never seen him like that. He's a bit shell-shocked.
And you know what he might be? Or it might be that he's learned from his mistakes, that he's learned not to engage and not to trade with the smaller man in the pocket because that favors the smaller man.
The last few rounds, Joshua was very hesitant. Signs of a fighter who doesn't want to do it anymore. If he doesn't want to do it anymore, I think he should stop.
And I think you don't have to look far to find comments like these after Joshua's last performance.
It's not like Jermaine Franklin has ever been stopped before, because he hasn't. And it's not like the fight got away from Anthony, because it didn't. He won most of those rounds.
You know, the standard they hold him to, unless he punches the other guy's head clean off of his shoulders in the first round.
I'm not even telling you that he didn't look tentative. He did. I'm telling you, the guy's coming off of 2 consecutive losses, he's breaking in a new trainer, and they're working on things. So perhaps what you're seeing...
Maybe it's just temporary.
That's more or less what Eddie Hearn is saying. Eddie Hearn is saying right now, Anthony Joshua is not at the optimum level he could be to face either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder.
And I think we all know that.
And that's why getting him back out there and getting him on a more active schedule is pivotal, in tandem with giving him enough time with Derek.
Christ's sakes, he just hired the guy.
The general feeling is we need another fight, a step up from Franklin. But in order to gel and continue improving with Derek James, we need another fight in the summer of that nature, Hearn said on the MMA Hour. We also need that Tyson Fury fight, whether that's even possible. Maybe a summer fight, and that might be the only chance. So if it's a difficult decision, because if we're doing it with a view to keep improving and for longevity and to get him to his best, then we should have another fight. Momentum is key for AJ. He's boxed like twice a year, sometimes once a year through COVID for the last 3 or 4 years. I want him to box in July, then again in December. I think it'll do him really good to have a couple of weeks off now, then go straight back to Texas with Derek James. If we're going to go into a Fury or a Wilder, which is inevitable, I just want him to go in with the best chance that he can have, and I feel right now he's not at the optimum level he could be to go into those fights.
But whenever Anthony's involved, there are always extremes. His career is always over. I mean, it's like the Pulev knockout has been completely scrubbed from the record. They say that Anthony lost all his killer instincts in that first Ruiz fight.
Could have fooled me the way he beat the hell out of Kubrat Pulev.
And it's not like Kubrat Pulev hasn't fought since the Anthony Joshua fight, because he has. He fought 2 times.
He went the distance both times. That's after Anthony knocked him out.
Guess nobody has any recollection of that.
He would still go into them, and I still would give him a chance in those fights, and I believe he could win those fights, but I would just like to see him firing going into these fights, and what I saw on last Saturday, was not Joshua firing on all cylinders.
Why would he be? He's coming off of 2 consecutive losses.
Or he was. Everything this guy does gets put under a microscope, you understand? It's not even being a wide-eyed optimist, hoping that Anthony can somehow get it together and work it out.
But it's a common sense argument. After 2 back-to-back losses while he's with a new trainer, he's gonna need a little bit more time to settle in.
It doesn't really just apply to him. That applies to any fighter, really any fighter, under these same circumstances. The story now is that Anthony Joshua versus Dillian Whyte rematch. That's the front runner for Anthony Joshua's next fight in July, Eddie Hearn has declared.
You take this fight, for example. If Anthony fights this guy again, he's going to be once again subject to criticism. It's okay for Tyson Fury to run it back with Derek Chisora,
who he beat 2 times already. It's okay for Deontay Wilder to conjure up an old sparring partner.
An old sparring partner that's been knocked out by guys that Deontay knocked out.
Robert Helenius was knocked out years ago by Johan Duhaupas. In more recent years, he was knocked out by the light-punching Gerald Washington. I mean, God bless Gerald, but he's not known as a knockout merchant. He's not known for power, and he stopped Robert Helenius. And it's perfectly okay for Wilder to fight that same Robert Helenius on the bounce.
But with AJ, everybody gets overly analytical. Everybody gets critical. I mean, I'm not even crazy about a Dillian Whyte fight, a Dillian Whyte rematch. All I'm saying is it's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
Look at Deontay Wilder's 2 fights with Luis Ortiz. What the hell was the point in that rematch?
I'd actually prefer Anthony fight Otto Valine. I can't stress that enough.
Or Filip Pergovic. I myself think there are more interesting fights out there for Anthony Joshua than a Dillian Whyte rematch.
There are, but my question is, if he does fight that guy for a second time, how is that different from Wilder fighting Ortiz for a second time?
Or Tyson Fury fighting Derek Chisora for a third.
They rush to extremes with Anthony Joshua that they don't rush to with other fighters. That's what I noticed. That's the observation.
I think it would save him and his supporters and his promoter a lot of headaches if they went in a different direction and chose to fight Otto Valine instead. Otto's never been stopped.
Be the first to do it.